about the closed system
he's
of
right.
the
Wait a second.
boron
You're right.
tube?
It would equalize. Wait a second. You're right. It would equalize to 10 to the negative 17 torr. How are you still breathing, funny boy?
We're at pressure, so therefore the gas hasn't filled an available volume sky vacuum, so there isn't one.
No, the valve is closed.
The guy brings up a good point. So the two glass bulbs that had one had a vacuum in it and the other one had a gas in it. You open up the valve. Did pressure equalize between those two?
Yes.
Yeah, it did.
It doesn't equalize between 7,000
Did you notice they were both in a container?
Isn't the Earth in a container?
Isn't the Earth in a container? What, like Druidia?
You know the thumbnail that Nathan has up there sometimes, where it's from Spaceballs with the big joint Maid with the hovering away the atmosphere off of that planet.
Mega Maid, yep.
Mega Maid, yeah, Mega Maid. Ballers will try and tell you, and only recently I was told that that's not what would happen. I was like, yeah, okay, there wouldn't be a joint Maid with a joint hover, right? But that's exactly what would happen. Do you know what I mean?
Mega Maid is our greatest.
Ask them how that joke.
Get it?
Ask him how that joke would have worked out had he not put that dome around the Earth. You guys hear me?
Yeah.
Mega Maid is the thing that executes the natural consequence of the housekeeping questions.
Yeah, it's also Hollywood generally laughing in the face of you. It's Hollywood laughing at you.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's Mel Brooks knowing more about his model than a lot of these morons do. Mel Brooks knew that joke wouldn't work if he didn't have something to contain the air. So apparently he understood the second law of thermodynamics better than Zanuck. That's great.
He did actually put a container around Druidia.
Yeah, I know. Nobody gives me the raspberry.
You got to ask yourself how that managed to make its way through the powers that should not be. How did they even allow that to make its way onto the silver screen when it completely contrasts the narrative? Because at a similar time, you got Superman flying around and changing the speeds of Earth and all that at a similar sort of time, right?
Yeah, but Superman is a serious movie, you know. It's supposed to be a serious story. It's cartoonish, but it's not a joke. It's not supposed to be a joke. While yeah, the Spaceballs, it's obviously everything about it is a joke. It's supposed to be all of it a joke. So then they can slip these kind of things in because it's comedy anyway. You know?
Yeah. Somebody will look at that and say, I mean, even I can remember looking at that like, that's weird because that's not how that is. But then again, how would that work if that thing wasn't there? I remember as a kid looking at that. Like, Dave gone.
My brains are sinking into my feet.
We can't stop. We have to slow down first.
Stop! I order you! Stop!
Somebody please save us. Is there a baller somewhere out there, for crying out loud?
Yeah, I can logically say that the Druidia thing is just fine. The shield that they put around there was to stop people from stealing their atmosphere.
Oh, I see. So they weaseled
what about somebody trying to explain it?
He's saying that in the.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Do you want to repeat what you just said?
We're trying not to.
I'm saying that the shield around Druidia is okay.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Yes, it is.
So,
It's
what
called a
about when the
container.
princess
It keeps
left
gas
the
pressure.
wedding and flew out of the door of the shield? How come the air didn't escape then?
Mostly down.
Yeah, because it goes mostly down. So I didn't figure it out yet.
Because gravity was holding the atmosphere to
No.
Druidia.
No, not gravity. Weight.
What's gravity?
No, not
Gravity's in the
no, not gravity. Weight. Mostly down, down. Go boom, boom.
Go splash,
Okay,
splash.
so the weight of the atmosphere was held to the planet. Opened and she flew her spaceship.
Yeah.
When you invoke weight in their fairy tale, you immediately invoke gravity. So gravity doesn't exist. It's a fairy tale. It's like invoking invisible three-toed gnomes.
I started with gravity, but you guys
technically,
wouldn't allow it,
it's
so
an
you said it had to be weight. Definitely
That's
gravity
just-
holding
I'm
the
just-
atmosphere.
I'm just re-illustrating what Zanuck did on the last show because we
Yeah,
tried to
sure.
say to him, "Well, this is obviously going to be gravity. This force you're invoking." He wouldn't say it. He said, "No, wait." So I'm just paraphrasing what they do.
Okay, well, I'm not him. I'm saying that gravity is holding the planet.
You're chopping.
Okay, fair enough. What are you saying? Or are you just asking us why the gas doesn't escape from Druidia? It would. It would expand through that little.
Apparently,
My
they
explanation
understood
was
they needed to
that
contain.
that the atmosphere is held to the planet, and they put up that shield just to protect somebody from stealing it. So that's why the Spaceballs had to use a vacuum to suck the atmosphere out, because the shield isn't holding the atmosphere in. The gravity is holding the atmosphere in. They put the shield up so Spaceballs wouldn't come steal their atmosphere.
I see. And Mega Maid created a differential between the sky vacuum and her bag, did she?
How
Agree,
did
that
she
part's
do
not
that?
very logical.
How did she do that? By creating a vacuum, just like what she's surrounded by?
No. She created a greater differential between the lack of gas pressure and the less than lack of gas pressure in her vacuum, Alwyn. It makes perfect sense.
Oh,
the-
right.
the
so
vacuum
the
was-
natural vacuum surrounding the planet was not strong enough to.
Yes, you need to
make
understand the
gas
double
go up,
speak.
So it had to be a stronger vacuum.
Yeah,
like
if you
that.
understood what negative pressure was, you'd understand this. It would all make sense.
This part of it I don't have much of an argument with, but the shield itself was just there for protection of the atmosphere, not to hold the atmosphere in.
Yeah, you said that three times.
Yeah, we get it. Stop ruining.
Oh, sorry,
shit about
I
the movie.
repeated myself. Just to summarize, Jesus.
Who cares about a
because
movie?
gravity doesn't exist still,
Oh,
though.
for fuck's
I
sake.
care about the movie. It's critical, important stuff we're detailing right here.
All right,
I
I'm
wrote that
sorry.
movie.
And you were begging for a
sorry, please forgive
for a
me.
Glober, so here you go.
No, I'm very grateful.
On a movie.
I'm not moaning.
That's why we.
Well, be a good. Make some shit up.
No, he did a fair job.
Hey,
He justified the dome around Druidia. I mean, we got to the gas pressure differential in Mega Maid, and we haven't got to the fact that, obviously that implies that there couldn't be a sky vacuum above the dome, because it would suck the gas from the available volume that it was in when it was inside the dome if it didn't have the dome. But we haven't got that far, but it's fair, it's done a reasonable job.
Yeah,
Well,
they
it's
knew
not
gas
one-
needed a container because when they were smuggling those little cans of Perry air, they put them in cans.
In containers.
Well, just remember though, when the doors open, it's still mostly closed, so it's still a closed system. Don't forget that.
A couple of them have tried to have me over a barrel on that because I said that the tire's an open system. And like, oh, so you're saying that the tire's not closed, then it's not containing gas pressure. I'm like, yeah, for you fundies, entropy's a bitch. It's absolute. It's going to eventually leak out because no tire's got a perfect seal. If you leave a tire long enough, the gas will eventually leak out of it because it doesn't have perfect seals. That's why you have to top your tires up because, it's an open system. The gas has got a means of getting out, therefore it's open. Now, they don't like that because even though when you've got a seemingly closed system, you can still classify it as open because there's matter exchanging. Well, just these are rigorously defined terms. It's not like a gotcha when I say, you classify a tyre as an open system because it is. You've got matter exchanging.
Speaking of air pressure, where I live at an elevation of 7,000 feet. Measured the atmospheric pressure to be 11.34 psi. Next to where I live is a mountain that's 10,000 feet tall. And I drove to the top of this mountain, watched the eclipse back in September 17, and I measured the atmospheric pressure there at 10.11. The two areas that I measured these pressures at were probably a mile apart. What explains difference in pressure?
No, that demonstrates a difference in pressure. It doesn't explain it.
Well, yeah, I'm asking for what do you surmise the reason for the difference in those pressures?
Okay, well,
relative density.
Hold on. No, why are you asking? I will give you an answer. I don't mind giving you an answer, and I'll explain it. But what's the relevance of the question?
This is related to your pressure without a container question. I don't want to yelled at for using differential pressure when I'm not explaining where the pressure comes from originally, right? So I don't want it to turn into the argument. I measured these values with an absolute pressure.
I see. I understand. So what you're saying is
locations. So
I understand. You're saying you've measured a pressure differential, and you don't want to have the argument that we have that we win in terms of where you got the pressure from in the first place. You'd rather we stuck with the straw man argument of the pressure differential so that you can't lose. Well, that's fascinating, mate. Thank you for giving us that little caveat. No. You'd prefer you didn't get. You'd prefer you
I
didn't
think
get
you're misunderstanding.
Because
I'm not trying to get a gotcha. I'm telling you that I measured these two things, and I was wondering what your explanation
That's why people get shouted at when I'm in the
different.
middle of a sentence and they carry on talking when I'm in the middle of that sentence. That's why they get shouted at. So I'll just reassert what I've said. What you've just asked us to do is ignore our winning argument, and you've even acknowledged our winning argument by saying you'll be asked where you got the gas pressure from in the first instance.
I'm sorry, I did not mean to interrupt you. There's a bit of a delay or somebody else talking or something that did that. I didn't mean to interrupt. I apologize. No, the question is not a gotcha at all. I just was wondering why you would think there's a difference in a 3,000 foot elevation difference. Pressure is different. I don't understand where that comes from.
Can I answer that, Nathan?
Well, we can, but I want to get past the fact that we were going to argue about this without being allowed to have our winning point expressed, because apparently we just got to get an answer to why there's a pressure differential and ignore the fact that we couldn't have that gas pressure at all or a differential unless we were contained. But we've been told by the person who's asking us to explain it to him. I don't see the relevance of explaining it. I still don't see why we'd need to explain this. It doesn't address the reason we have the question, and you've said, I don't want to have an argument about that.
I was trying to avoid this circle is all I'm trying to do. So my explanation for having the pressure in the first place is gravity, and that air has mass attracts mass, and the air is attracted to the earth.
What's gravity?
I see.
Based on what hypothesis?
Okay, no worries.
That theory is outdated.
Your idea is that the gas is attracted to Earth. You're aware of something called the water cycle?
Yeah.
Hydrological cycle. In that cycle, which way does the gas go?
When water evaporates, the gas goes into the air. It's up in the atmosphere.
Up, you say?
Denses under certain conditions and rains, and the cycle starts over again.
Let's not worry about the rain, just the gas. The gas went which way? Sorry, you said it quite quickly.
Okay, so it goes up. We'll walk through this.
Okay, thank you. So when you say it's being attracted to Earth, that's complete, what's the word? Bollocks?
Again, I'm sorry, I missed it. It's bollocks?
I'll repeat it, no problem. You asserted that gas is being attracted to Earth, gravity, you said, and then you gave us some 100-year out-of-date rhetoric about Newtonian forces, mass attracting mass, 100 years out-of-date nonsense. Yeah, well, we then pointed out that gas, you've just explained to us, is going up, not attracted to Earth, completely the contrary. So therefore, bollocks, mate. Not gravity, not 100-year out-of-date mass attracting mass, not holding gas to the Earth, it's going up, mate. That's where we're at.
You've been told your whole life that everything is going
You're a big fan of natural law, right?
Did you hear what I said?
Brian,
I didn't.
No, Brian, hold on. Sorry, is that a... Yes, I understand how my statement of gravity holding gas to the Earth is complete bollocks on a fact that it's going up. No, not you're going to ask me a question. Now, just before you answer, this is irritating, mate. Irritating because this is the third time I've said this. You've not acknowledged it once. Now, you've conceded that the gas is going up. You haven't conceded that absolutely annihilates your fundamentalist 100-year out-of-date rhetoric of mass attracting mass and holding gas to the Earth, mostly down, go boom boom. It's going up. Please, can you acknowledge this devastation of your complete nonsense, please, before I get really irritated and say it a fourth time to you? Can you acknowledge it, please? With sugar on top.
Yep, I acknowledge it. To calm down the conversation, gas goes up. Then why is there more of it at ground level than there is?
Sorry. Don't ask me a question. Yeah, gas goes up, not down, like you've said with gravity then. So I'm not looking for another concession that goes up. You've already conceded that. The point I will need you to concede is that absolutely annihilates that which you have claimed holds gas to the Earth. That would be gravity by way of mass attracting mass. That's 100 years out of date and is not the case because according to you, it's going up. So what I need you to acknowledge is the part where it annihilates your argument. That's the bit I want you to concede, mate.
I disagree.
Oh, so it's gas being attracted to Earth. That violates the law of non-contradiction. It can't be being attracted to Earth, that's down, and going up away from Earth. That's a violation of the law of contradiction. I've said it once. Now, before we move on and you reassert why you think that's wrong, do you understand that that's a contradiction in terms? It can't be attracted to Earth down and going away from Earth up.
There's a contradiction, but I think we have a communication.
Don't tell me what you think. You understand. I'm telling you, I am the authority in your nonsense. Currently, there's a contradiction in terms. Not attracted to Earth going up. Don't tell me what you think. Just say, I understand. I'm talking bollocks.
Disagree.
Oh, really? So something that's going down attracted to Earth is simultaneously contradicting itself by going up? No, mate. It seems you have got this trouble, this cognitive dissonance we describe, where you hold something that is fundamentally in opposition to the position you've declared. And now you seem to be laughing over the top of me pointing out your cognitive dissonance. Something that is being attracted to Earth. Why are you laughing? Is this troubling for you?
Because you do this with every argument. The way you steer arguments.
Shut up!
The debate.
Shut up!
Hold on.
Shh! You're holding a contradiction. Now, you've said, oh, yes, that's a contradiction, but I disagree. No, it's just a contradiction.
If gas goes up, there would be more gas higher than there is lower. Would you agree?
Oh, really? Sorry.
Gas does go up, though.
Who's interrupting me on the Discord, on the G+? No, mate.
I'm sorry.
I'll give you a little example. You've got a kettle, and you boil it. Once the vapour starts coming out of the spout of the kettle, if you put your finger over the kettle an inch above it, you'll burn your finger. But if you put your finger above that kettle a metre above the spout, you won't burn your finger because there's less gas higher up. It's produced from the kettle, equivalent to gas being produced in a puddle in the water cycle on the ground. And as it goes up, there's a lesser concentration. Because it's not being produced in midair, it's being produced on the ground where the highest concentration is. So no, it does not imply logically that there'd be a greater concentration higher up if it's going up, because the greatest concentration is going to be from where it's produced. In the same way as if you've got a tailpipe of a car, you're going to have the most concentration right at the end of the tailpipe, not dissipated into the air, that'll be less. So regardless of whether or not you understand or acknowledge what I've just said, we're still at the point where you're laughing at me, irritating twat, because you've got a contradiction that you haven't yet squared. Gas is not both going down towards Earth, go boom boom with gravity, 100-year out of date mass attracting mass, you haven't acknowledged that once. If it's going up, those two things are in polar opposition. It doesn't suddenly imply that the gas would all suddenly be masses of it up top and hardly anywhere it's being bloody produced. So I've dealt with both issues. We're still at the point with your contradiction. Like the other guy I detailed, Circle, Jerk, Fundy, called Sanic, we go round and round without you acknowledging where you're talking nonsense. You think I'm wrong when you give me a contradiction of both down and up at the same time. So can you acknowledge that your nonsense has been smashed? Or do you still think I'm wrong when I point out you're contradicting yourself?
This is just the same speech that you give everybody else that is a ridiculous circle jerk that goes back and forth, and you won't let
because you've
conversation
already played
happen.
yourself.
That's not a rebuttal to the argument.
That's what happened,
Yes, that's
though.
correct,
You
Darwin.
already played yourself. You
Yes, that's
described
correct,
gas
Darwin.
as going up while it's supposed to be going down with your argument.
Essentially,
So
what that
destroyed
was,
yourself.
what he's just done is ad hommed me. This is what you always do. This is you being something personal to you. That's an attack at the man. You haven't actually addressed my argument where I point out you have a contradiction in terms of violation of the law of non-contradiction. You haven't addressed that. You've just started attacking me for how I behave always. I'm always dealing with double-speaking, contradicting fundamentalist zealots who laugh when I point out their contradiction and then think that they can attack the man rather than the argument. That's what you've done. You've utilised a string of logical fallacies and then laughed at me.
I apologize for laughing. It's just that your argument technique is the
I
same.
see. I'm really sorry I shouted at you. I'm really sorry that I pointed out your contradicting nonsense was contradictory, and we're still at that point. But now let's get into a little back and forth about how sorry we are. No, why don't you address the contradiction that you've utilised when you say gas is going down with gravity, with 100-year out-of-date rhetoric of a force that's not a force, it's actually the bending of a conceptual medium known as space-time. And no matter how much you think about it, it's not going to give rise to any force. Thinking about concepts doesn't give rise to forces. So it's definitely not this force you've utilised that's 100 years out of date. You're still yet to address that. You're still yet to address the contradiction that it's not both going up and down. That's nonsense.
Here's the justification for that then. There's more gas at ground level.
Yeah,
because it's denser.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, there's more gas at ground level because it's denser. Would that be correct?
No, I stated that that's where the gas is being produced, therefore it's in the highest concentration. I qualified it with an example with a kettle.
In that gases are produced at ground level. How does that work?
Who cares? You have yet again.
Who cares?
Yeah. Sorry, mate. The address that I'm looking for is in regards to your contradiction that I've annihilated. Told you to state that the bollocks is contradictory. Now you seem to be asking me a question about how the gas cycles work. That's called an obfuscation tactic.
Sorry,
also
I didn't know
while you talk through me, because you're annoying and you're going to talk through me mid-sentence, we call that the fundamentalist globehead religious zealot mute button. While I'm in the middle of pointing out that you're still yet to address this contradiction, that you're asking me a question about how gas cycles work, in spite of the fact that that is entirely irrelevant to A, how you can have gas pressure in the first place, because we're a million miles away from that right now, aren't we? Because I've got into justifying what you wanted to talk about, a gas pressure gradient, and talking about gas cycles. Where do we get this gas pressure from, given that your sky's a vacuum and you refuse to address that so far your only rebuttal to this involves a contradiction? You want to get further and further away from that. We haven't got any containment for the gas to form in the first instance. That's the bit that you prefer we didn't argue about. But I'm absolutely going to argue about it. How is any of this happening at all if we don't have containment?
Because of gravity.
No, what, your 100-year out-of-date rhetoric? Repeat after me. Gravity is not a force that's 100 years out of date. Repeat that, please.
No, that's bullcrap because there's a Newton's law of universal gravitation. It's a law.
What's Newton's law?
Newton's law of universal gravitation states that every point of mass in the universe attracts every other point of mass with a force that is directly proportional to the product of their masses and inversely proportional to the square of the distance between them. It's a law. Like your thermodynamics law that can't be argued.
What's the formula?
It's a law.
Don't equivocate between laws. What is the formula?
Formula is F1 equals big G times the mass of object 1 times the mass of object 2 divided by the square between them.
Sorry, you're not listening.
That is incorrect.
Go ahead,
You don't even know you're appealing to Newton's law, and you don't even know his law. Big G is not in his formula, son.
Absolutely is.
It absolutely is.
Okay, hold on. No. Do you want to cite that, please? Do you want to show us?
How can I screen share?
Just post it in the live stream. Citation.
It's getting close to turn out the lights time, pretender clown.
Posted.
You've posted it?
Yeah. Okay. Oh, I'm not in live stream. 1 second.
No worries.
Who is it, Alpha Murphy?
Let's not guess.
No, I'm just identifying his name in here.
Oh, my bad.
1 second. This is from Google, just from Google. All right, hold on.
Just from Google?
Why do I gotta chase this stuff down?
How can it just be from Google?
What? Just 1 second.
Sorry.
It's just I don't have a link here.
I'll do the.
Can you link the direct source instead of the Google?
Yeah, you just gave me Google.
Yeah,
he just gave you a Google search.
Let's just end this. Let's just end it quick because I got breakfast here and it's getting cold. 1 second. We'll end it quick. So, let me go ahead and share my screen, Nathan. 1 second. Yeah, why ain't he doing it? Oh, boy. You got me?
Yep.
Are you watching? Oh, this is taped. See, you said everyone else is saying it, but I'll just go through it. See, the force of gravity, the ballers will invariably say is big G M1 over R times M2 over R squared, right? That's not Newton's equation. This is. The force of gravity is proportional to M1, M2 divided by distance squared. So it was 207 friggin' years after the Principia was published and 167 years after Newton's death that CV boys added this big G. So you're wrong.
Time traveling Freemasons.
You can bend time if you just believe in. So anything is possible.
This is just don't confuse things. This is I know you're just speaking an analogy for something else that's humorous, but no. If you say we're bending time to go back to, people will suddenly confuse that with us talking about space time. We're not. We're talking about mass attracting mass now. We're in Newtonian, CV boys, Reverend John Mitchell. That's what we're talking about. Not bending space time. I know you're saying time travel to get this information from people in the future, in the case of Newton, but yeah, let's just not confuse it with this terminology of time travel because that's gonna.
So he's appealing to Newton's law, and he doesn't even know what it is. I mean, what on earth, dude?
As he eats breakfast.
Well, we're going to get a reply from him.
Sorry, I don't want to fundy mute.
No, just go ahead, Alpha Murphy.
I still want you to tell me why the pressure didn't equalize between my mountain and
He
7,000
goes on to
feet.
another question.
Sorry, you asserted that it was gravity, and then when we got you to give us what you think is a law, something that's over 100 years out of date, you inserted big G?
No, the original question that I wanted to get to, we got steered down this road again. I wanted to know why the second law of thermodynamics didn't equalize the pressure between my
why are you going back to
1
the
mile
original,
distance.
Oh, we'll get to that one. We're going to get to that. Can you say something to the fact that you quoted a law and you didn't know what it was?
Are you saying that formula is not correct?
The one you gave us was incorrect. You inserted big G.
It's not that's not Newton's law?
Did you not just listen? No, it's not. No, that's been inserted by Reverend John Mitchell, Cavendish, and C.V. Boys.
Okay. So it got corrected. Now that formula is invalid?
It got corrected.
So even the formula, the incorrect one that you gave, that's not Newton. That's the first problem. That's the bit we're trying to get you to establish, that you quoted a law from Newton. No, you're wrong.
There is no universal, or there's no law of universal gravitation then?
Yeah, there is. It just doesn't have big G in it.
Really not understanding the problem.
Because you're admitting that there is a law of gravitation, but then you say gravity's not real?
You have to process
No, there is a thing. Guy. No, there is in existence a thing called the universal law of gravitation. You don't know what that is, but you appeal to it.
You're saying that it exists, that the universal law of gravitation is real, but then you say gravity doesn't exist.
Did I say real? No, that's not what I said. No, there is a thing in existence called the universal law of gravitation. Did I say that the universal law of gravitation is real? No, I didn't say that. No, in the same way as I can write down a poem about unicorns, and then I can declare that that poem is real. The poem exists. But does that mean that unicorns that are contained within the poem are real? No, I'm not implying that. No, I'm not saying that Newton's law applies. I've specifically said that it's 100 years out of date, and it's definitely not gravity.
And it's not a law anymore either, by the way.
Correct. It doesn't apply. It's not a law.
Can you
it's been debunked?
Can you tell me where that law was disproven?
I just need to hold a helium balloon. Just need to let go of a helium balloon and watch that law fall into oblivion.
Helium balloon works off of buoyancy.
Oh, a buoyancy. So let me get this straight. This law is going to utilize a presupposition of gravity and buoyancy to justify a law when it doesn't work. So ultimately beg the question with it. No, this law is 100 years out of date and doesn't apply. Do you not understand this?
The age of the law is irrelevant.
Well, its validity is, though. Its validity
means
is irrelevant, is it? How valid it is that relevant?
How old is the second law of thermodynamics?
Inviolable.
Age,
not been demonstrated. Incorrect. Not been violated, ever. Inviolable, the second law of thermodynamics. Universal law of gravitation, you can debunk with a helium balloon, as we just explained, and you kind of chuckled. A bit like you chuckled last time.
No way.
Yeah, there's that chuckle.
No way that a balloon disproves the law of universal gravitation.
Yes, that's correct.
Well, prove it. Well, scientifically prove the universal law of gravitation that you don't know.
Bring Arwen in and talk about relative density. That's how a helium balloon is going to rise.
Sorry.
Natural observed phenomena, please. We want you to prove the law scientifically. First step. Do you even know? Let's go back.
Hey, let me turn one back on you then. Laws do not have anything to do with science. There's no proof required. It's a law. Like you guys always say about thermodynamics. It's a law. It doesn't use science.
You're equivocating the law of thermodynamics with your debunked law, Newton's universal law of gravitation. You see the problem there?
They're both natural laws.
No. The second law is a natural law. Newton's universal law of gravitation has been debunked.
Please.
In fact, your fairy tale pseudoscientists, you're not even parroting the right pseudoscience, because as of 1915, your pseudoscience have gone with general theory of relativity gravity.
Can you give me a citation
So
for the law of
you're
universal
arguing the
gravitation
old and
being
busted,
debunked?
and you're not arguing the new hotness,
Sorry,
which is also bunk.
The old and busted gave you a force to make the gas go down, go boom, boom. And gravity is not a force. Regardless of whether or not you accept this, it's not relevant. You're quoting the wrong pseudoscience, debunked laws that aren't laws anymore, 100-year out-of-date pseudoscience versus the current rhetoric of bending conceptual mediums. So regardless of how much you want to argue for this nonsense indefinitely about gravity, the argument isn't about gravity. Gravity was your rebuttal for how gas, which is actually going up, you've conceded that, is simultaneously contradicting itself by being attracted to Earth with a force that doesn't exist. So we've got a force that doesn't exist that you now want to argue about indefinitely, and it doesn't address the fact that gas expands in all directions to fill the available volume, and you haven't got any containment. Your rebuttal of gravity's been smashed because you're using 100-year out-of-date gravity, and the current rhetoric of gravity will not overcome entropy. Not only that, gas isn't behaving the way you detail it to behave in order to have this force that's not a force, because gravity isn't pulling the gas down, it's going up. So there we are, back on rails, nice and heading towards the horizon that's not physical.
Excellent summary. Thank you. To get back to the point, why didn't the air pressure the ground or at 7,000 feet rush up to fill the available volume at the top of the mountain at 10,000 feet?
Sorry, it's less. I went through this with a kettle. Again, lack of any acknowledgement from you in that regard, so you can whistle past it and ignore it seems. So you appreciate that because the gas is being created at ground level, it will be less as you go up. You did concede that. And then you went on to explain to me, yes, I concede, more at ground level where it's being produced.
Your tea kettle thing was horrible because you said you equated pressure with temperature and burning your finger, which was terrible. But the whole producing gas at ground just drives me batty because that's just...
Where's the gas produced?
It doesn't get produced.
Where does the gas come from on Earth?
Oh, it doesn't get produced.
Where does it come from?
Sorry, he's just stated that gas doesn't get produced at ground level. That's baffling. So when you see a puddle one day and then you come back after a hot day and it's gone, you don't think that's the production of water vapor?
No, that's a conversion from a liquid to a gas.
So it's being created. The gas has been created from liquid then?
Oh, it just changed phase. It didn't
get changed states to a gas. Matter. So it was liquid, and then, let me phrase this carefully, gas was created.
Converted.
Wow.
Liquid to a gas.
Yeah,
the
so
liquid is no longer there, and now there's a gas. It just
that's
got
right.
Converted.
So it was
produced.
So it was produced at ground level then.
Oh, so what happened to the area that the liquid was?
So no acknowledgement from you. Do you see why people get shouted at here? So your nonsense been smashed, and it's now time for a question that I should answer. No, mate, you've just said that it's baffling to assume that gas is produced at ground level. Why wouldn't it equalise? Why wouldn't it be more at the top where it's not being produced? Even though earlier cognitive dissonance has set in again, you see. You don't want to hold what you've already... Now you're talking through me. Fundy mute button. Something that earlier, when you were being smashed and silent, you decided that you weren't going to do and justified your silence when not answering something with not wanting to fundy mute me, but now you're proceeding to fundy mute me. Yet we've smashed your nonsense. We smashed it earlier. You acknowledged it earlier, but have had amnesia and forgotten all about the fact that, gas is produced at ground level. Then you denied that, and I had to take you by the hand like a retard and explain that absolutely that phase transition that you described was producing gas. That's right, mate. Yeah, the thing you conceded to earlier. So we're back on the rails again. We're at the point where the question we ask is how we have the gas in the first instance, and all we're doing with you is talking about how we have gas pressure gradients while you deny fundamental principles you were taught in 7th grade at high school. Now, while it's fun to discuss how gas is created at ground level and thins out as you get higher, it doesn't really address how we'd have that pressure at all If the sky was a vacuum. Now, gravity doesn't address this because it's not a force. And I know you want to argue about that indefinitely also, but we've smashed that also. I'm almost certain that you'll have amnesia again and introduce this gravity concept, which we've destroyed, or deny that gas is created at ground level and gets thinner as it goes up, answering your initial question, and then address the reason you've got that question, which is how we can have gas pressure in the first place without a container. Given that the sky is a vacuum in your heliocentric religion, the gas we breathe would all fill the space. We'd never achieve any situation where we could even have a gradient for you to ask me about, because the gas would all fill the space.
But the gas at 7,000 feet didn't fill the space at 10,000.
Yeah, it's working its way up and getting less because there's less of a and now you're fundy muting and laughing. You see, it seems like when I smash your point for a second time, it doesn't address my question. We're still never going to address my question. How do we have this gas pressure in the first place? You're just going to continually circle jerk around asking me about how gas pressure gradient is achieved and why it's less higher when I've just explained it about 30 seconds ago. Because the gas is produced at ground level, phase transition as you put it, creating gas, and halfway up a mountain there's less ground level producing gas for there to be gas. So there's less of it the higher you go. Something that you've understood, it's been given you an analogy with kettles, and you've decided to ignore it and say it's baffling, even though it's patently obvious and taught to you in 7th grade. So we're still at the point where you're yet to address the actual problem with your model, your fundamentalist religious belief that the Earth is a sphere with gas pressure in a vacuum, something that violates natural law.
If I took a bunch of flat earthers and I stacked them all on top of each other in a bit.
So this is the end of your acknowledgement of my demolition and time for a new strawman obfuscation question after a short pause. So, mate, if the sky was a vacuum as per your religion, the gas we breathe would fill the space.
Before you wind up, which you're about to, I can feel it. The reason you get fundy muted all the time, in my opinion, is...
Who cares? The sky is not a vacuum. I don't give a shit what you think about my show. You fundy moron. Your sky's not a vacuum. You've got a religious belief in a globe with pressure in a vacuum. It's wrong. I don't give a shit what you think about my show. Shut up about why you think people fundy mute me. I don't care. You've done it repeatedly because I'm destroying your religion. And now I've got us back on track, taking us away from the red herring about my show, back on the sky vacuum that's not real. And he fundy mutes me again, talks through me. I'm demolishing your religious belief in a sky vacuum. And all you can do is fundy mute me and then discuss the fundy mute button. No, mate. Your sky's not a vacuum. The Earth's not a sphere. We don't live with a vacuum above our heads, not having the gas fill that space. That's nonsense. That's just your religious belief. Now, I know you want to talk about something else immediately and not address that, but I'm not going to allow you to talk about a different subject like my production or why people think they need to talk through me when I smash their religion like I'm doing now. You do it because you don't like your religion being taken to pieces, so you're going to talk through it when I say the sky is not a vacuum, or you'll laugh because the cognitive dissonance leaves you in pain. And mentally, the way people cope with pain is they laugh or they try and avoid it. They try and talk through it. I'm detailing your pain and how to cope with your pain. You laugh about it. That's what you're doing. You use the fundy mute button because I'm taking apart your religious belief that the sky is a vacuum. It isn't. It violates natural law, and your rebuttals have all been taken to pieces here by me, while you fundy mute me, ignore my rebuttals, leave short pauses and ask me questions. You've been smashed, mate.
In other words, victimized.
Sky is a vacuum.
Hold on, he needs to chant. Hold on, everyone on the panel. Hold on. He needs to chant his religious belief a few times. Tell us how the sky's a vacuum, mate. Go on, chant away.
Sorry, I didn't know I was interrupting QE. Please continue.
I didn't interrupt you. You started chanting through everybody, saying the sky is a vacuum. I heard you.
The sky is a vacuum.
Yep, chant it a few more times.
It's a vacuum. Sky's a vacuum.
No, it isn't. If the sky was a vacuum, Natural law, the second law of thermodynamics, inviolable, applicable, dictates that the gas we breathe would fill the available volume. The gas would fill the space.
Speech. Nice speech.
That's an ad hom. That's not a rebuttal. That's you attacking me, the man. Nice speech. Yeah, what a load of nonsense. Maybe use the word salad. Yeah? No, that's not a rebuttal, mate. That's an ad hominem attack. That's a logical fallacy.
Well, it's not. It's not.
That's a hand wave. Ipsy Dixit fallacy.
Oh, God, here we go. List them all out.
What, you're chanting? You just chanted that the sky was a vacuum 4 times. That's what you just did.
You told me to. You told me to repeat it. The sky is a vacuum. The higher you get, the lower the pressure goes until eventually you get to zero pressure.
No, if you had zero
thermodynamics violation.
Exactly. That's the second law of thermodynamics violation. If you had zero pressure, then that would be an available volume for the gas we breathe to fill. And fill it would. It's dictated by natural law. Inviolable.
The pressure would equalize, right?
No, so we're circle jerk fundy idiot back to not acknowledging that the gas is produced at ground level again. Oh wow, how quickly we circle jerk and have amnesia.
About the closed system of the boron tube.
It would equalize. Wait a second. You're right. It would equalize to 10 to the negative 17 torr. How are you still breathing, funny boy?
Yeah, if the sky was a vacuum, equalization would be that the gas would fill the available volume that the gas has to fill. So yeah, correct, Huey. We would be at 10 to the minus 17 torr at sea level. That's not a lot of gas to be able to breathe. Oh, what do you know? We are breathing gas, though. We're at pressure. So therefore, the gas hasn't filled an available volume sky vacuum. So there isn't one.
No, the valve is closed.
The guy brings up a good point. So the 2 glass bulbs that had one had a vacuum in it and the other one had a gas in it. You open up the valve. The pressure equalized between those 2?
Yes. Yeah, it did.
It doesn't equalize between 7,000 feet.
Did you notice they were both in a container?
Isn't the Earth in a container? Isn't the...
No, you retard. Isn't the Earth in a container? What, like Druidia?
You said that for us to...
Yo, moron. You just asked me if the Earth was in a container, and I'm asking you for clarity of your stupid question and your declaration that you clearly don't understand the heliocentric religion that you're believing in. No, mate, not like Druidia. Open to the vacuum.
You say that if we have pressure, there has to be a container.
Yeah, it's a necessary antecedent. Without the container, there can be no pressure.
So I went outside and measured pressure with an absolute pressure gauge. We have pressure.
Then we absolutely have containment. It's a necessary antecedent. Without something to press on, you have no pressure.
So we do have pressure. So
yes, so therefore we have containment. Not therefore we have a sky vacuum, because that violates natural law.
Where's the container?
Who cares? I don't claim the sky is a vacuum, and I don't make any declarations about what the sky is. You've come here to say that Druidia was only contained because gravity was actually holding on the atmosphere, and it wasn't going to escape to the sky vacuum that we definitely have. This is your claim. So what, because you've been smashed to oblivion, suddenly I've got to tell you what the sky is? No. You think it's a vacuum, it isn't.
Sky is a sorry. To live with
mutter, mumble, mumble.
Chanting, he's chanting again.
Chanting, sky vacuum, gravity,
I'll speak more clearly. Higher in elevation you go, the lower the pressure gets.
Yeah, that's
correct.
Where'd
you get the pressure from?
Yeah,
where did you have that pressure in the first place? You're not getting zero.
Yeah, where'd you get the pressure from in the first place? How did you have gas pressure in the first instance? How did that gas pressure form to then develop as a delta of that gas pressure? Things like gas pressure gradients, gas pressure cycles. To first have gas pressure is our question. How can you first develop the gas pressure if you don't have any containment? How is that possible?
Let me flip it around. Why don't I ask you that same question?
Well, you can't have gas pressure without a container to answer that question. And I'll quote one of your own side, a globe head called Conspiracy Cats. Quote, without the container, there can be no pressure. End quote.
Boom, boom.
Where is our let me ask you, where is our pressure coming from? I measured it.
From ground level, from the gas being produced. Amnesia again?
So it's just the production of gas that gives us pressure.
No, you'd need the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon. And I'm asking you, given that you need to fundy mute this question, where we get the gas pressure from if the sky is a vacuum. Not Druidia. They don't claim it's contained, mate. That's where we got to last time. Train's back on the rails.
Where is the container at then?
Sorry, there is no container in your religious belief of a sky vacuum, and that's what we're asking you. Given that you claim the sky is a vacuum, I don't know what the sky is, but I make no claims what it is. You make a claim, it's a vacuum.
Yeah. You have an awesome appeal to ignorance. I don't know what...
sorry, I haven't made a claim about what the sky is. My appeal to ignorance. I haven't made a claim.
What is the sky? What is the sun?
I have just told you that I don't make a claim what the sky is. You do.
Claim to know everything.
You claim the sky was a vacuum. Who's talking through me?
Sorry.
You claim the sky is a vacuum. I do not claim the sky is anything. I do claim, get it down, write a pen, that without a container, there can be no pressure. Because it is, fact, a necessary antecedent. You cannot have gas pressure without a container. By inference, I can infer that because we have gas pressure, there must be containment. That doesn't make any claim about what the sky is. Now, you, on the other hand, claim the sky is a vacuum. Therefore, we ask the claimant, if the sky is a vacuum, as per your claim, how can we have gas pressure? Because the gas would fill the space.
And equalize, and it doesn't equalize, and there is a container. Big circle jerk.
So there is a container? Well, not in your religious belief, mate. So you saying there is a container? No, there isn't in your religious belief, mate. So it seems welcome to flat Earth is in order of the day, right? Because no, that you globe Earth in a vacuum, fundy mute time. Globe Earth in a vacuum doesn't have a container. You just said, yeah, so there's a container. No, it's not Druidia, dickhead.
Okay, that's an ad hom right there, dude.
No, you are a moron because you keep telling us that your heliocentric world has a container. No, you're wrong. That makes you a dick.
Right by that ad hom?
No, that's a double-speaking dick move because you're now arguing that, yeah, we got a container. No, you haven't got a container. Now, unless you're going to say, well, what I meant was gravity's the container, but I just hadn't said it yet. Well, no, we've already smashed that. Was this a lead-in double-speaking dick? No, it's not an ad hom. You are a dick because you're double-speaking. We don't have a container around a sphere Earth. It's not Druidia. When you said, yeah, so we've got to have a container then. Yeah, necessary antecedent. Yeah. Earth doesn't have that. Therefore, the sky is not a vacuum. That's our point.
Okay, sky's not a vacuum. Where is the container?
Oh, well, that's the end of your religion then. Who cares beyond that point? Why are you asking me a question? Yeah, the sky's not a vacuum. That's the end of your heliocentric religion then.
The question I'm trying to ask is, you have to have an antecedent container for the pressure that I can measure. Where is this container?
Well, definitely. Sorry. God, doesn't
matter.
Hello. It does not matter. It's sorry, laugh it up, mate. Sorry, you've just conceded. If you talk through me continually, dick. Yeah, that's a dick move. That's not an ad hom. You are a dick. Thank you. So, sky not a vacuum then. So, you concede, you agree, we would require a container. Therefore, the sky's not a vacuum then.
A circle jerk you do here. Fucking crazy.
Is that a yes?
Logic. Go ahead.
Oh, God. Is that a yes? I concede we would require a container.
I have to say shit just so that I can make a point. The sky is actually a vacuum. Sorry.
No, the sky is not a vacuum. If the sky was a vacuum, the gas we breathe would fill the space. It's an available volume for the gas to fill. If it was there, we wouldn't have any gas. You keep asking us, well, wouldn't it be equalised? Yeah, it would equalise to 10 to the minus 17 torr. If the sky was a vacuum, we'd have no gas to breathe. It would equalise with that vacuum. Yeah, that's right, mate. Like we showed with the bromine, requiring containment. Yeah, then we're back on track again. Maybe a little chuckle. No sky vacuum then. Need containment then, as conceded by you.
Okay, so in the bromine valve, pressure equalized. You also say that there has to be a container for pressure. We have pressure. There must be a container. Therefore, it would equalize. It doesn't equalize because I measured a difference in 3,000 feet with 11.34 to 10.1 pounds. It didn't equalize. There's no container in that area.
Sorry, you don't seem to appreciate that to have the gas pressure, to have that differential, as explained 6 times, you don't get the gas pressure to begin with unless you have containment. Is it just circle jerk us back to gradients again? Ground level, production of gas thins out as it goes up. We've gone through this with you 5 times. Circle jerker. Circle jerker. Circle jerker. Yeah, circle jerker. We've gone through this with you, haven't we, mate?
So wrong, though.
Seems wrong. Well, no, because the sky's not a vacuum. Yeah, it seems wrong because it violates natural law to assume the sky is a vacuum. It's not contained, like Druidia.
Okay, so we measure, so we can test some of this theory, right? With measurement. We can measure the pressure on the ground.
This isn't a theory.
Measure
no, this is not a theory.
Measure it in
Stop. Stop. Hello, Dick. No, when I say stop, it's because you've said something incorrect. This is not a theory. You don't know what a theory is, I assure you of that.
Didn't hear you say stop. I'm sorry.
Stop. Not a theory. Please stop babbling nonsense about something that you claim is a theory with this colloquial term.
Okay, sorry. Wrong words. I can measure pressure at ground level, right?
Where'd you get the pressure from?
Okay, you can measure pressure at ground level. Yeah, how is that possible if the sky is a vacuum?
Well, stay with me for a second. Don't bring you up too far yet.
Well, no, I just need to know how we would... No, I need to establish immediately how we have this gas pressure. Because if the gas... Let's say we've got a puddle, right? And the puddle's heated up and it produces a gas. And the sky was a vacuum. Well, then all the surrounding gas anywhere near that puddle would have already evacuated into that sky vacuum. So what I want to know is, given that the sky, according to you, is a vacuum, how it's possible to measure a gas pressure at ground level at all? Short pause, now time for a new question. He'll ask me something that's nothing related, guaranteed.
Let me drive for a second. I measure pressure, it gets there magically. Sky god.
No, it doesn't get there magically. You need a container. No, not magic, shithead. Don't say magic. No. To have gas pressure, you need a container, not magic.
Where's the container?
Sorry, the container? What? We must have it because we've got gas pressure. But you think the sky is a vacuum?
It's right there.
If you have pressure in a container, it equalizes across the whole container, right?
No, we live in a dynamic system. Circle jerking, fundy religious moron. We've gone through this on multiple occasions with you. It's about the 8th time. Gas is produced at ground level. You have cycles, like the water cycle. It goes up, it condenses, it comes back down. That's a cycle. But in that process, the gas is produced at ground level and therefore is thinner higher up. We've gone through this with you, I'm not kidding, at least 8 times. And you just keep circle jerking back to something that's been rebutted. And my question still stands. How is it possible to measure a gas in the first instance if we've got a sky vacuum, a massive amount of space for the gas to vacate into? And vacate it would by way of natural law entropy increase. It's called the second law of thermodynamics. It's the entropy law. They're one and the same thing. It dictates how gas behaves, entropy, it's real, inviolable, and the gas would fill that space if the sky was a vacuum. So you're saying we were at ground level, we've got gas pressure. I'm saying, oh, well, how is that possible if this black area on my screen for my audience is a vacuum? Because all this gas down here would just piss off into it.
So we have gas pressure at the surface of the Earth because air has mass. Mass is attracted to mass, and
no, we smashed this earlier, you circle-jerking, fundy religious chanter. We went through this earlier, 100-year out-of-date rhetoric. You don't even know what the actual Newtonian law was. You're a spastic. So, circle-jerking fundy, do you think you can just keep going down this drain over and over again, reasserting things that we've smashed into oblivion? Why do you think people get shouted at here, mate? That's about the 6th time you've used that. And we've smashed it into the middle of next week every time, but you still reassert it. You don't acknowledge that when we get to these sorts of stony silences, you don't acknowledge that you've had this smashed. You just ask us a question. So you're a fundamentalist religious zealot who, regardless of any rebuttal or any challenge or anything that demonstrates your religious belief to be incorrect, you'll still hold it as true. Gravity's not a force, mass doesn't attract mass.
Mass absolutely attracts mass.
No, that's 100-year out-of-date pseudoscience. No, mate, not the current rhetoric. No, that was what they called gravity.
No, but Newton
attracts mass. Why does the...
He just chanted it out, Arwin, while you talked through him. Mass attracts mass, mass attracts mass. No, mate, that's not acknowledgement of how I've smashed it. Not even the current rhetoric of your scientific priesthood. Yeah, that's not the current rhetoric. Gravity is not a force. Mass is not attracting mass.
Mass attracts mass. Why?
See, he's just chanting it and then asking me a question. So in the face of my rebuttal, what, chant it and then ask me something? No, you little prick. That's not a rebuttal. That's chanting your religious belief at me. Mass does not attract mass.
That was an experiment.
Cavendish is an experiment. I'm sorry. You guys fuck that up all the time, too.
Sorry, now you're swearing at me. Why are you swearing at us?
Did not mean to use the F word. I apologize to your audience. Not to you, but to your audience.
Well, you swore at us.
He says science.
You said, you guys fuck this up. The Cavendish experiment you were referring to. Cavendish is not an experiment. There is no...
Yes, it is.
We can go there, Nathan.
Okay, fine. Let's do it.
Hold on.
You think it's an experiment? No worries. Let's take you through this process.
Go with QE.
Yeah, we're going to validate your claim.
1 second, sir. I got to find the damn thing.
No worries. Just before you start, I'll just say, so it's a, introduction, the dissection of his nonsense, and then a summary of the same thing at the end. The Cavendish experiment is absolutely not an experiment. It does not have a phenomena to observe, nor does it have an independent variable, presumed cause of the effect validated by the experiment. The phenomena is conjured within the experiment, within the apparatus. It's not observed in nature. So nobody will show me mass attracting mass in nature. It does not happen. However,
They can't even define it.
Right, they can't even define mass, correct. But we'll go ahead and we'll try and validate this guy. Natural observed phenomena, please.
Let's go ahead with the apple falling, I guess.
Apple falls to the ground, go boom, boom.
All relative density. There's no force disequilibrium happening.
Okay. So you understand that this is the dependent variable, right? Apple fall to the ground.
I would like to surmise that because the ground is mass and because the apple is mass, that they are attracting each other.
Wait a second. I asked you a question. Do you understand that the apple falls to the ground is the dependent variable?
Sir.
All right. So apple falls to the ground. What causes apple to fall to the ground? That is, what is the independent variable?
Mass of the apple.
The mass causes apple fall to the ground. Wait a second. What is mass? Can you define it for us?
The amount of material in the object.
Wrong.
That's incorrect. That's mole.
Oh, mole is a quantitative measurement of specific atoms.
No,
The amount of
are we
stuff.
talking about mole and mass again?
Shut up,
So
Xanax.
I use mole at work in a gas chromatograph.
Yeah, that's wonderful. But the amount of substance in something is not mass by the Royal Chemistry Society, son. Do you need that citation too?
Here we go with sure.
So what is mass?
You don't know what mass is.
Hold on,
How
Jimmy.
can you
Hold on. Just one sec. Sorry. So it's not mole. So what is mass then? Because so far you've given us the definition of mole, and we don't seem to have any gravity in this. But nevertheless, we've got mass causes apple to fall to the ground. What's mass?
A mass is both a property of a physical body and a measure of its resistance to acceleration when a net force is applied.
That's wrong. That's inertia.
That's inertia.
That's inertia.
This is citation from Wikipedia.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
well,
I
it
know.
matches.
You can get a different. Get a different one if you want.
Hold on. Are you aware of what an equivocation fallacy is?
A definition, but yes, I am familiar with equivocation fallacy.
What's an equivocation fallacy?
Where you take the same.
You broke up. Can you repeat that?
Where you take two different things and assume that they're the same.
Two different definitions of something.
Do you realize how you just did that?
You appreciate that you've given us two definitions of mass thus far. One would be actually the same as the definition of mole, and then a second, kind of like an equivocation, where you describe it as inertia. You appreciate that that's an equivocation fallacy?
The slow speech. Nice.
Waiting for an affirmation, a yes or a no. Maybe I should say it even slower.
Yes. Don't say it slower, please.
So you understand that you've used an equivocation, so we're at the point where we've got something that validates the cause of apple falling, and the cause is mass, which is undefined. I just want to, maybe swear at you. What the fuck does this have to do with gravity?
Why do you stop it here? Let's keep going with the experiment.
Yo, what the fuck does this have to do with gravity? You unbelievable moron. I've got apples falling down. I've got undefined mass. What the hell does this have to do with gravity? Are you just pissing in our faces? I don't even see the word gravity on there. So far, you haven't even mentioned it, you dipshit. What the hell does this have to do with gravity, you complete idiot?
He says we messed this up all the time.
Mass. It's
Nathan, you're
sorry, did he say, yeah, that's where I was going, Neil. Did he say we fuck this up all the time? You complete retard? I'm berating you, mate. You don't need to talk to me. I'm telling you off because you're stupid. Apparently, this is some validation for 100-year out-of-date rhetoric that you feel I need to fundy mute you while I tell you off and point out that you haven't even got the word gravity in this hypothesis. That's nonsense with an undefined mass that you've equivocated with. And the cause that we're trying to figure out the effect of, or the effect we're trying to figure out the cause of, is apple falling. Right? That's your phenomena. Apple falling. Right, sod all to do with gravity. This is nonsense, mate. Not only that, this definitely has sod all to do with Cavendish. I've not got any torsion bars, I've not got any balls. This has nothing to do with Cavendish. So you told us that you could assert scientific validity to gravity with the Cavendish quote-unquote experiment, and then you fucked us around with apples falling and not even mentioned gravity? Are you totally retarded?
Apparently so.
Yes, you are unbelievably stupid, like all of you.
One moment of clarity.
You're all retards. You haven't got the slightest clue what you babble on about when you come here talking about Druidia and its containment and it only being needed because they're going to suck it away because gravity's holding it there. And when we get to your definition, you've got equivocation, you've got fallacy, you've got ad hom, you've got laughter, but you haven't got any evidence that the sky is a vacuum, have you now? The sky isn't a vacuum because the gas we breathe would fill the space. So you think mimicry is a rebuttal? You think mimicking my demolition of your fundy sky vacuum belief is a rebuttal?
But yeah, he's got an independent variable he can't even define. That's cute.
Yep. Before we leave the page, can we go over the Royal Society of Chemistry to pound away at your mass amount of substance? From the Royal Society of Chemistry, moreover, studies have shown that the amount of substance is often incorrectly identified with mass. Thank you very much. You're finished.
Drop. Nice. QE, way to go.
That word was the key word was incorrectly, right?
Yes. So,
right.
You know when you're lost? When you start saying
your mass chronometer is friggin' nonsense. You can't even define it.
Alva, you did kind of for it.
Any last words, Alpha Murphy? I'm just waiting for your response. Maybe chant something at us again?
Oh, sorry. I've had enough fun for today. Thank you guys very much for. I got all of the things except didn't get any from Arwen. So relative density, equilibrium crap that he spews, thing I missed out on. So
no, that's not crap. That's about as consistent as you can get for an explanation for how a microphone drops when it's forced into disequilibrium and then returns from whence it came. Not even I can summarise it as well as Arwen. Not crap. About as concise as you can get.
And all you managed to do was literally chant sky vacuum. You literally chanted sky vacuum, and that's it.
You can measure a reduction in pressure as you get higher.
Before he goes?
A reduction in pressure that we wouldn't have if the sky was a vacuum. If the sky was a vacuum, the gas would fill the space, but you whistle past that and just constantly circle down the down the drain, using this nonsense of a gas pressure gradient when we wouldn't have any gas pressure to begin with if the sky was a vacuum.
Could he define relative density equilibrium, please?
No way.
Could you define
he can't even define gas pressure.
Well, apparently he did hear my explanation and thought it was all crap. Probably because he didn't get it, so...
Yeah, he didn't understand that.
But he didn't listen.
Probably because he's just looking for sound bites.
Sounds like
it.
It
sounds like.
Well, soundbite this. Arwen's explanation is fucking fantastic as far as I'm concerned. He's the most concise person when he describes this because he spent about a year solid arguing with Sleeping Warrior about it and getting his argument down to the point where he can concisely detail precisely what is a mic dropping when it's forced out of equilibrium into, what do you know, disequilibrium. And what's happening? Well, the density of the mic and its relativity to the air around it. Well, relative density disequilibrium, those three words concisely summarise all of that I've just had to babble through in about 5 sentences. Kudos, Arwen. Arwen is ace. And with that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who did tune in on this extended Flat Earth debate uncut and after show on the Nathan Oakley premiering stream for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff.